Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sydney, and if you are new here, this is just a place where we can talk about true crime, spooky scary stories, dark history, or anything else I got going on in my brain. Just so you guys know, I've been trying to film without the cats in my room, but today they are here, so if you hear a little pitter patter, that is what is going on. So sorry for any unwanted noise. So I feel like in the true crime community, we don't really talk a lot about women criminals. We talk about a lot of males, and it's getting a little bit more popular to talk about females, but I thought we would take a little blast to the past and talk about a robber that was definitely a strong, independent woman. So let's get right into it. It was the Roaring '20s. Women were discovering their wild side with the trendy new style and mindset of the flapper. It's iconic. The sleek bob, the short dresses, and of course, challenging the status quo. With inventions like vacuum cleaners and refrigerators, women could spend more time outside of the house and could do things that really helped them discover themselves. They could go out more, listen to music, drink, smoke, talk to men. It was just a very important time for women to really discover themselves. And during this time, the economy was pretty good too. I mean, there were slight recessions in 1924 and things like that, but nothing like the great stock market crash of 1929. That being said, though, times were still tough for some people. For example, the unemployment rate in 1924 was 5.8%, which, if you want a good comparison, right now the unemployment rate is around 3.7%, so a little bit higher than what we're used to at least. And one couple that struggled during this time was Ed and Celia Cooney. Celia was born in 1904 in New York City, and her childhood was very much less than perfect. She had 8 siblings, and her father was an alcoholic. Their parents were pretty neglectful in general. They would make their kids go out on the street and beg for money, and pretty soon the custody of the children were given over to Celia's aunt. Celia then ran away when she was 16 years old and started supporting herself by being a laundry worker in New York City. She then met Ed Cooney in 1922, and they got married the following year. Ed was known for being very tall and handsome, and he was a worker at a car mechanic shop. The couple lived very modestly, as that's really all that they could afford. They rented a tiny little bedroom in Brooklyn, and the following year, Celia found out that she was pregnant. From what I could tell, Celia was really all about the American dream. She dreamed to be a housewife and a mother, and all she wanted was a comfortable and safe environment for her child to grow up in. But times were really tough for the couple. So on January 5th, 1924, Ed and Celia Cooney entered the Tom Ralston's grocery store in Park Slope. Celia approached the cashier and asked him for a dozen eggs. As the cashier was wrapping up the order, she held up a .25 automatic pistol and demanded all of the money out of the cash register. The frightened worker quickly handed the money over to Ed Cooney, and it amounted to be about $680, which is about $12,200 today, and the couple quickly escaped into the night. After their initial robbery, the Cooneys actually moved out of their tiny little bedroom and into 1099 Pacific Street in Brooklyn. Ed and Celia then went on to rob 2 more corner stores, that being Atlantic and Pacific and H.C. Bohack. The combined total from these 2 robberies was around $365 or $6,500 in today's money. The first robbery had gotten a little bit of press coverage, but by the second and third robberies, the press, they were all over this story. More specifically, though, people were becoming obsessed with Celia herself. She was even given the nickname the Bobbed Hair Bandit, and this was given to her by the Evening Mail, and it just stuck. Not only that, but she was kind of becoming this mascot that everybody started to talk about. For some, she was the embodiment of an empowered woman, not adhering to the traditional path. She was everything that a woman could be: bold, heroic, and supporting herself. But for others, she represented exactly what was wrong with women today.
You see that? If you give a woman freedom, they'll just start robbing places. They'll start fucking shit up, which is why they belong in the kitchen, to just make babies and die.
So the press loved Celia, right? They loved her escapades, but they could also use her case to show how the police and government weren't dealing with crime in New York City properly. They specifically mocked Police Commissioner Richard Enright, and he didn't seem to take too kindly to this because he immediately started to focus all of his police forces on catching the Bobbed Hair Bandit. They placed roadblocks up all around the city, and they even started to, question and arrest people just because they had a bobbed haircut. That's like the police trying to find a woman today that had like a balayage. And they were like, the balayage bandit. And they just stopped every single woman that had a balayage, and they were like, you look a little suspicious. What were you doing yesterday? Do you know what I mean? Like, the insanity of this, it's crazy. On January 14th of 1924, Enright actually publicly announced that he had caught the bobbed-haired bandit. He said, easy day. I got her. She's in custody. They claimed that 23-year-old actress Helen Quigley was behind all these robberies, and not only did they arrest her, but they also placed her in jail for a month and a half. This was quite obviously a false accusation, and Celia was not going to stand for that shit, okay? So at the Coonies' next robbery, she left a note. You dirty fish peddling bums, leave this innocent girl alone and get the right ones, which is nobody else but us, and we're going to give Mr. Hogan, the manager of Ralston's, another visit, as we got 2 checks that we couldn't cash. And also ask Bohack's manager, did I ruin his cash register? Also, I will visit him again, as they broke a perfectly good automatic on him. We defy you fellows to catch us. Not only did she just continue to rob shit, but she also was like, yeah, good luck catching us, bitch. I can see why women back then were like, yeah, go bitch, go. Despite this scathing letter from Celia, as well as just having one false accusation under his belt, this did not stop Enright from trying to find the bobbed-haired bandit. He publicly announced 2 more suspects, Mary Cody and Rose Moore. And this search reached everybody, even famous people. Author F. Scott Fitzgerald claimed that his wife Zelda was actually caught up in this investigation. He said that she got stopped on the Queensboro Bridge in Queens and was questioned by police. Literally, nobody could escape the wrath of Richard Enright. And even with putting up the roadblocks and trying to stop and question as many people as they could, Enright decided that they needed to up the ante even more. So he had 850 detectives just focus on this case, which is crazy. Not only that, but evidently Enright also gave them permission to just shoot on site. And I couldn't really find, if there were any specifications on that, did they have to have probable cause, or could they just fucking pew pew pew? Enright also gathered an elite team of 8 detectives, and he called them the Bobbed-Haired Squad. I feel like he thought he was really doing something with that, and he wasn't, but it's fine. But even with now kind of a more steady income, they still weren't financially stable enough to support their child that they were about to bring into this world. So they decided that they needed to do a bigger hit. And that's when they decided that they were going to steal from the National Biscuit Company. So on April 1st of 1924, Ed and Celia strolled into the National Biscuit Company's payroll office, and they held up the employees like they always did. But this time, somebody decided to stand up to the couple. An employee named Nathan Mazzo lunged at Celia, and she quickly stepped back and fell over a chair. She wasn't hurt or anything, but from where Ed was standing, it looked like she was either hit or was in some sort of danger, and so he fired 2 shots at Nathan. The couple quickly fled the scene, leaving about $8,000 in the open safe, and police immediately flooded to the scene, but Ed and Celia were a little bit faster, and they managed to escape on a train to Florida. On April 10th of 1924, Celia actually had a baby girl named Catherine when they were in Florida, but the baby was born very ill, and a few days later, Catherine did pass away. Meanwhile, the New York police had found out that the Coonies had caught a train and quickly made their way down to Florida themselves and began to search every single maternity ward until they found Celia and Ed. Once it was discovered that Celia Cooney was the bobbed-haired bandit, she again became front cover news. In fact, thousands of onlookers came to the train station on the day that the Coonies returned home after 65 days on the run just to try to get a glimpse at the bobbed-haired bandit. Both Ed and Celia pleaded guilty to their crimes and were sentenced to 20 years each, which was the maximum sentence. She spent her sentence at the Auburn Correction Facility, and after 7 years, she and Ed were released from prison. So you might be wondering, what is next for the bobbed-haired bandit after this? What's next for Ed? You know, like, what's going on? What is their next big thing? And it's kind of anticlimactic, I'm not gonna lie. So sadly, Ed actually had his fingers crushed by a machine while he was in prison and had to have his arm amputated. He did end up suing the state of New York for this case and did win about $12,000. Then the couple went on to have 2 sons, but unfortunately, Ed did pass away in 1936 from tuberculosis. It was thought that after he had his arm amputated, his immune system was just kind of weak, and then he unfortunately got tuberculosis and died. However, Celia lived to age 88, and she never told her 2 boys about the robberies. They found out after she had passed away that she was the bobbed-haired bandit. She didn't tell anyone. She just seemed so very modest. Like, all she wanted was to take care of her family and to be a housewife and not have to worry about money. Like, she was probably worrying about money from, you know, a very young age, and she just wanted financial stability. And that's the only reason that she was a robber. She wasn't in it for the fame. She wasn't really in it for, like, the money, even really just to have money. She just wanted to survive. And I think that, yeah, that might be, like, shameful for her. Like, she might not have wanted her sons to know that she was a robber, but she was just such an iconic person during the Roaring 20s, and it's just interesting that she never told her sons. But I really do love this story because it encapsulates a lot of different social issues of the 1920s. The changing norms for women, the economy and how it pushed this couple to do crazy things just to get by, and even politics, and of course the press and how they can really spin a story and create this narrative. I think it's an interesting look back in time, but it's also very applicable to today even. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed the story of the Bobbed-Hair Bandit. I had no idea about Celia, but I love her. She's an icon. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. I hope that you guys are having a good day. We are right in seasonal depression season, so I hope that you guys are getting some sunlight, drinking some water, staying safe and healthy. Thanks for watching. As always, feel free to like, subscribe, do all that crazy shit, and keep being the bad bitches that you are. Bye guys.